Greetings, Earthlings. Welcome to this latest edition of Reptile in the Living Room. I'm not in the living room again today. I've chosen to be outdoors because it's a spectacularly beautiful day here. We don't often get sunshine where I live, and I am taking advantage of the sunshine and this beautiful spring morning, apparently without any visible chemtrails in the sky, which is always an extra fabulous day in my book. Uh, of course they exist. Of course they're real. Oh, maybe that's not the appropriate term to use, but y'all know what I'm talking about, don't you? That's right. Crazy people screwing around with our weather like they're God. They're not. There's only one of them, and that particular God pretty intelligent, and I'm sure we'll take care of all these problematic issues with time, along with our assistants here as the ground crew on planet Earth. So, what am I going to talk about today? Once again, I wing all this stuff. I mean, I have like a little tiny note card here that has some ideas on it, and I'm just going for it. These are my thoughts and opinions. All of these videos are my thoughts and opinions based on experience, direct experience, listening to other people's experiences, listening to a bunch of firsthand witness expert testimony, which I always take into consideration. I like to listen to what other people have to share on this planet because I think they're generally far more truthful than some of the control systems we have for information, aka the mainstream media, education, blah, 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 all those other things. Our history, which we know is just, it's like Swiss cheese, man. Chock full of holes. Chock full of holes. Oh, yes. I wanted to bring out my mug today that's holding my delicious beverage. I don't know if you can see it, and I don't want to spill it on my computer. Okay, it says, due to unfortunate circumstances, I'm awake. All right, we'll read it one more time. Due to unfortunate circumstances, I'm awake. Now, yeah, that's how it happened for me. I saw this mug in a regular, big box store and almost fell over laughing. It's like, oh yeah. In fact, it's taken me many, many years to look back at the circumstances that transpired as my awakening began and continued. It's taken me a long time to look back at it and go, you know what? That was probably a good thing because it sure didn't feel like it at the time. Massive amounts of loss, one thing after another, after another, after another, after another. And facing all of your worst fears really was not a very good experience at the time. However, apparently that's what it took to get me off my ass to do a little bit of inner work. I had already been doing inner work for several decades, but, needed to step it up a bit. And I think globally at this time, we are all awakening. Well, most people are awakening. I'm sure there will always be a handful of people that just don't want to grow up spiritually, and that's their choice. I mean, that's their choice for sure. So this waking up process, I found after I started waking up, where I was, led down the proverbial rabbit hole. You may have heard that term. Maybe it doesn't make a lot of sense to you right now. Maybe it does. I don't know. But if it doesn't, it probably will with time. This waking up process where I was led down this rabbit hole began with trauma. And I'm not going to go into the trauma, a trauma that I think a lot of people go through. The only thing was just kind of one thing after another. And I decided when this trauma began, twice. I mean, it started once, and I'm like, oh boy, am I going to get through this? And I found I started to get through it, and then boom, it hit again a year later, almost to the date. And both times I decided I was going to look within and find the lesson in what was happening. So, yay for me! Many years of studying metaphysics and self-help books and trying to get better from being raised in a very dysfunctional environment. I'm going to use environment because that encompassed many things. We can just call it the matrix. We can call it the control system. Many years of working on myself to try and get better. I didn't have money to go to a psychologist, thank heavens. That probably was a good thing. I mean, there's a lot of really good psychologists out there, don't get me wrong, but some of them have to adhere to some rules that make it difficult for them to really help people, unfortunately. But I was able to self-help myself to a better state of mind, and I'm still doing that today. I am far from a guru. I've got a lot of lessons to learn. I have a lot of growth to do, and I'm just sitting here talking things out with you on these videos because I think we are in the Great Awakening, and we have an opportunity to evolve to a much higher level of consciousness at this time. And so I'm putting it all on the line, baby. I'm getting out here and talking. I'm telling you everything. I'm telling you everything and sharing things without fear, okay? Without fear. I'm telling you almost everything. There's no reason to probably say everything because there are many people in my life that have come and gone that I don't want to bash. I have no need to do that. So in any event, yes. So at this point in time in our global history, due to, can you read it? Due to unfortunate circumstances like a giant frickin' virus, I'm awake. Many of us are now waking up. The beauty of this is that we've all finally had a chance, not all of us, but many of us just got plucked off the treadmill. This freaking hamster wheel. I mean, just blah, 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 same old crap every day, every week, every month, every year. Around and around and around we go. You get up in the morning, you have your coffee and maybe some breakfast, you go to work, you go to lunch, maybe you get some grocery shopping done at lunch because you know what, you don't have a lot of time because you're so busy on the hamster wheel working, and you eat crappy food at lunch or you eat really fast and you eat mindlessly, then you go back to work, then you come home and you got to deal with kids if you have kids or deal with whatever, your housework, your bills, if you're lucky, maybe you have a little bit of time to work out. And then generally eat something crappy because you don't have a chance to really prepare good, wholesome foods. Although that's pretty easy, really. I mean, you just eat simply, right? But that's a whole other story. And then you get back in bed and the alarm clock goes off in the morning. You notice the alarm clocks, talk about a control system. They're all like, like shock you awake. I always wanted to invent a better alarm clock system. Yes, you can wake up to music, but for the most part, people wake up to these annoying alarms, and they have for a long time. It's an alarm. Be scared! You're waking up! You've got to face another day of bull crap! Quick! Alarm! We're sounding the alarms! You've got to jump back on the hamster wheel! Hope you enjoyed your dream time! Where many of people in their dream time find themselves like running away from stuff or, nightmares and things like that. Anyway. Okay, so where was I going? Once again, I just really don't have a script. I have a few things written down on my note card. And I want to talk about this waking up process, this dark night of the soul, It's an incredible thing. I think it was Joseph Campbell wrote about the dark night of the soul. An interesting fellow who studied myth, and I haven't read enough of his stuff to really get too deeply into him, but he did cover the dark night of the soul. Other people probably covered that in front of him or before him. I don't know who they might be, but very few ideas are original, let's put it that way. We all know that, right? Not really much. No, maybe he didn't write about the dark night of the soul. He wrote about the hero's journey, and David Wilcock writes about that and talks about that quite a bit as well. And you wake up in a dark night of the soul, you kind of find yourself in this pattern. It's like, Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm on this pattern, and it really is kind of a universal pattern. Maybe it's just for our planet. I don't know. I mean, I don't know enough about the greater scene on all of this, but we we are on a journey. We're all on a journey here on planet Earth. We're all on a journey to evolve, and we've got foes. We have foes. Now, whether these foes are somebody we kind of created prior to birth for our greater education, yeah, I think that's part of it. I mean, the nature of reality is so vast and so grand. We kind of have to just wade our way through it. You know, when you're willing to take that part of the journey in life, you start wading through things, and you're like, oh my gosh, like the more you find out, the more you find out that you don't know, and the just the deeper that rabbit hole goes. So, yeah, this hero's journey, we are all on a path, and I'm not going to talk about where I found I was on the path. I'm somewhere on the path, and I was refreshed to find that out. And maybe one of these days I'll do a video on the hero's journey. I'll look up Joseph Campbell's information and other people's information on this and go over that. But the bottom line is, this dark night of the soul are these periods in life that we can either, fall down on the ground and go, you know what, poor me, this is horrible, I'm a victim, I can't do anything, I can't do anything to help the world, I can't do anything to help my life. Or we can go, you know what, things are looking pretty crappy right now. Once again, life is coming at me. I could either go, I don't want to deal with it, right? Or why is this happening to me? The poor damsel in distress on the railroad tracks. Or we could look for information in what's happening to us and use that as a stepping stool for how to grow. And it seems to me that the more aware you are, just, like every little thing that kind of pops up in life is an opportunity for growth. And that's fabulous. I mean, this world we live in is just this, not just world. I mean, Earth is interesting enough, but I mean, this cosmic system we live in is incredible. There's these opportunities for growth and enlightenment and ascension. It's incredible to think about this. So, I used to be a really fearful person. Very fearful about a lot of things. And I think when you're raised in an environment where there's a lot of violence, then it's easy to be in fear. So if that's the case for you growing up, and I mean, a lot of people have grown up in violent environments, whether it's in their home or having gangs in school or growing up in a war-torn area, which, you know what, as a lucky American, I never think about that. And I really, when I thought about that just recently, I'm thinking, God, how self-serving not to think about, really feel what it might be like to be in a war-torn environment somewhere on this planet. And they've been everywhere. These wars have been everywhere. And thankfully, we have somebody who's in charge of our country at this time, who's taking us out of wars. Yeah, I know that might upset a little bit of some people out there. Maybe it upsets a lot, but you know what? I'm speaking the truth. He's pulling us out of wars, okay? If you don't like that information, you could just turn this little thing off. That's okay. I'm not going to talk anything else about him. I'm just going to say, I really appreciate anybody who starts taking us out of wars, okay? I think it's a great idea, especially considering the nature of how we ended up in wars with these countries in the first place, which maybe I'll get to in another video as well. So today I'm going to talk about the dark night of the soul. So I think that we're in a place right now with the energetics of this planet that we have an opportunity to evolve. It seems rather obvious to me and many other people at this time. And sometimes we just need to be waking up. And sometimes that's just going, hey, knock, 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 it's time to wake up. At other times, it's like you open the door and you pull the covers off somebody's head and you go, hey, it's time to wake up. And if that doesn't work, Sometimes you just got to take a glass of water and go splash. It's time to wake up. Well, I got the water. Okay. I got fire hosed more than once. And that's what it took for me to learn how to become a stronger person, a more compassionate and empathetic person. Not to say that I didn't have compassion and empathy to start off with, and sympathy, but I believe I have more now, that I have more patience with people. I have more patience with myself. I'm more willing to look at my own behavior, and I'm more willing to step out of my comfort zone. Everything's fine in my world. As long as everything's fine here, I don't have to do anything. Well, you know what? Sometimes whatever force it is that decides we need to get out of our comfort zone and enter a little bit of growth will enable us to do that by changing circumstances in our lives, which can be quite painful. All right, I'm not making fun of that. It can be pretty painful. So I believe we're at a time in our consciousness right now, collectively, that we had to all be hit with the dark night of the soul, collectively. And that is this great pandemic. Did I say pandemic? Pandemic that is, all around our planet at this time. And ever think about the word planet? Since I'm thinking about the word plan here, talking about it, planet, separate it, plan, E.T. Get it? Extraterrestrial. Anyway, just thought I'd throw that in there too. Oh, words. I got to get into that in another video too, and how they keep us captive in this control system. The dark night of the soul, the collective dark night of the soul is hitting our planet. And, people are scared. They're scared they're going to get this virus. They're scared they're going to die. Maybe some people have died that they know. And I'm genuinely sorry for that. It sucks. Totally sucks. This has made us stop. It's made us think about life. It's made us start to look at what is around us at this time and question it. We as a herd species have just accepted things. Well, that's what they told us in school, so that's what's right. That's what they told us in church, so that's right. That's what they said on the news, so that's right. We just accept things without questioning things. And we just move along on that hamster wheel, which is just, what an incredibly unhealthy way to live life. Every system in life grows. Every system in life expands. And we're here to grow and expand and listen to each other. Do you think people show up in your life by accident? Even the jerks are there for a reason. We need to learn from them. And during this time, not only do we need to learn to become more compassionate, more sympathetic, empathetic, if the experience has happened to us before, if we can't feel that pain from somebody else while they're going through it, we need to look at that. We're devoid in empathy. The other part of what we are here to do right now is to learn how to have healthy boundaries. For some reason or another, the topic of codependency just decided to pop up in my life about a year or two ago. And I really had thought I had dealt with a lot of my codependent tendencies, having grown up with the elephant in the living room. I did say this show is called The Reptile in the Living Room. I hope that's what I said in the beginning. Anyway, if I didn't, I corrected myself now. It's easy to confuse elephant in the living room with reptile in the living room. Once again, all of this is unscripted. Sorry, I just had to fix my sock. Can you tell it's unscripted? I so enjoy just being me. I've always enjoyed that. So it's just fun to be me. And I hope by being me, I can encourage you to be you with flaws and all. We're here to learn healthy boundaries with each other. And I've really had to just shut the door on some people that just do not understand what respect is. And they might not agree with what that might be, but it's like if I'm saying, you know what, it just, I hear ya, but I'm not really interested in listening to that right now. My point of, let's say, for instance, making a comment on Facebook or sharing information with people is so that they could open up to that. You know what I mean? I don't want to get in a heated discussion with people about things. I just really don't. And that's my boundary at this time. I will discuss things with you. That's okay. But you know what? Really getting to that type of discussion with people on Facebook, in any sort of text or writing, it just is wrong. That's a whole other subject. This, we're going to communicate via text and writing. It's like, no, that's one-way communication, and that just doesn't work in my book. You can't even understand, like, really where either party is coming from, because it's very easy to just kind of insert what their emotions might be while they're saying things, or make judgments, like maybe they're coming from a place of anger or something like that. It's like, but anyway, back to my point. A healthy boundary is a healthy boundary. Like, you know what? I don't want you drinking in my house, okay? You can drink anywhere you want, but I think alcohol is an unhealthy substance to use, and if it's my home, I don't want you drinking in my home. I think that that's pretty easy, right? And it's like, any person who has respect for themselves and others, and you know what, if you don't have respect for others, you gotta look, do you have respect for yourself? Because that's the first thing you need to work on, is going to respect that. I think that that's pretty easy. Some really nice tea this morning. It's a rooibos, honey vanilla. I like it a lot. With stevia. Okay, no sugar. It's not good for us. Maybe it's good for some people. It's not good for most people, like alcohol. Oh, did I just say that too? I probably did. All right, so yes, the waking up process is, sometimes it requires a trauma, and we'll just use it to, like, the trauma that's happening here on this planet right now with this virus that's going around, and there's a lot of confusion about where this virus came from. Yeah, I won't get into that right now either. But it scares people, and that scariness, and also, like, being knocked out of your daily routine. That definitely came with my awakenings too. I was knocked out of my daily routine. Let's put it that way. Things that I was used to doing over and over and over again were like, yeah, well, that element's removed from it now. So what are you going to do? So it gives you an opportunity to look at life and look around us. And when you're not on the hamster wheel, you have an opportunity for greater awareness. And awareness sometimes can be really painful. There's no doubt about that. I remember when I stopped drinking in my early 20s, and I remember at that point in time, I wasn't numb anymore. And so I would have these awarenesses about things, and frequently they were really painful, like looking at myself and, really bad choices I had made, especially while under the influence of alcohol. Dear God. I mean, definitely not a tool for enlightenment, that's for sure. And even though the awareness would hurt sometimes, I was always super grateful that I had that awareness, because that was a trajectory point for me to, make some changes in my life that were going to not just enhance my life, but enhance my relationships with other people. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's not just about us. I mean, it really isn't. It's about us and ourselves in relation to other people and our planet, for that matter. So right now we're all off the hamster wheel. Prior to the hamster wheel, we have been in this humongous division over the right versus the left, and the Republicans over the Democrats, and the blah over the blah. And it was crazy. I mean, for people that are younger, we didn't have these issues when I was growing up. I mean, you were whatever you were, and you went to the polls and you voted, and, people just didn't get in your face about things like that, and I'll revert back to when I stopped watching the news, and I told you in the other video, I came home from work one day and there was the ticker tape on the bottom, the ticker tape on the top, and then there was, 4 different panels with people screaming and yelling at each other, and it's like, oh my God, you know? And then all of a sudden it was like, we've got your left wing TV and your right wing TV and the, I hate you and the I hate you. It's like, oh my gosh, how about bringing a little bit of balance back to things? Both sides of this strange political system we're in have valid points. Period. That's all there is to it. Then you have these little fringe contingencies on either side that have lost their minds. They're crazy. They're totally crazy. So we need to bring ourselves back into balance, okay? During this great awakening we're having, this global great awakening. I am loving watching countries come out of the woodwork, and there are people saying, you know what? We have had it. We have had it with our rights being violated by governmental systems, and we all need to be doing that, each and every one of us. And you know what we need to be doing is we need to link up arms with one another on this planet in all countries and say, you know what? We've had enough with this control system. Because when you get to the controllers, the real controllers of this world, you're never going to believe what you're going to find. It's the reptilians. And they have been written about in every single ancient culture. I mean, really, the more digging you do, I've always loved history, the more digging you do, it's like they're just everywhere. They're in India, they're in Turkey, they're in Guatemala, they're in the Americas. I mean, every ancient culture talks about them. And they were just problem children, right? Maybe they're just reflections of some of our ugliness, although not the totality. I mean, we're not that ugly. We're just not that ugly. Human beings in general, unless you're like a Ted Bundy kind of guy, we're not that ugly. We're just not. I gotta wonder about some of these people too that are as bad as Ted Bundy. The trauma that these people have been through, and then probably a little mind control thrown in. Okay, and yeah, mind control does exist. Go visit your television set, for example. Tell a vision. Tell lie vision. We'll get into more of that later. I don't care how kooky it sounds, man. When you find out how deep this rabbit hole goes, it's going to be amazing. So we wake up with this trauma, and then we got to do something about it. And you know what that is? That is to go within and clear up the icky stuff that we're walking around with. Our judgments of others, our angriness, our controlling behaviors, our wanting things my way or the highway. And if we don't have those tendencies within ourselves, we can look at within ourselves to our weakness. I mean, we can look at, the bullying is strength. I don't think it is, nor is the passivity really weakness. I mean, they are both to some degree, but we need the balance. And so, if we're getting beat up by people, what we need to do is set healthy boundaries with people. And if those boundaries are not respected after we have exhausted all resources, we need to walk away from those people. We can let them know why. We can be very frank about what we think about their personalities, because you know what? Some people need that awareness too. And then we can walk away from them and let them stew in their own crapulence. Yes, I like that. We all need to learn. We all need to grow up on this planet. And the higher you go up in the ranks, the more crappy people tend to be. It's just so crazy that in this society that when you get over on other people, when you're in that rat race and you can step over on people's heads, that somehow or another you end up at the top of the game. We need to reinvent the game, my friends, because this planet can be run in a completely different fashion. And I am enjoying watching so many criminals being outed these days. I don't think I need to get into a laundry list of who those people and organizations are, because most of us are aware of them. Because courageous people all over the planet are outing them and exposing them for their awful behaviors, which not only destroy our planet, but destroy our health. And we cannot allow that any longer unless we want everything taken away from us. And I think sitting at home during this pandemic, and having to think about things should hopefully wake enough wake enough of us up at least to be able to start standing up for one another on this planet. Stand up for the organic farmers, man. Oh, those guys take a lot of crap. And man, what I've heard that's happened to the farmers that have had to use those GMO seeds has not been good either. So let's pray for them that they get their livelihoods back. The dark night of the soul. This is our planet's dark night of the soul. Due to unfortunate circumstances, we are awake. But you know what? We can take lemons and make lemonade, my friends. Yes, we can. We can turn this all around for our benefit. So, you know what? Let's work on learning to be there for one another. Just, even in our own little family units, our friends, to really listen what they have to say. If you're on the telephone with somebody and talking to them and somebody's sharing something with you, don't be looking on Facebook. I mean, don't be looking on Facebook. Don't be, I'm not saying you have to sit there and do nothing, but, give as much attention as you can to people. Listen to what they're saying. Get down into your heart space, like right here. Just feel this energy right here, this sacred heart area, the sacred heart that is depicted in a lot of historic art pertaining to the saints and Jesus. This beautiful sacred heart area. Just try and spend some time down in there while you're listening to them. Send them some love if they're having a hard time from this space. The space is very powerful. I mean, it's really all powerful when you get down to it, but that's, more for another show. And I spoke about this in other shows. Like, okay, so I don't know if there's any help for these reptilian beings. I don't know. I mean, I believe that there's room for evolution of everything. I think that our Creator is so incredible. Just, for anybody to even think they've got a handle on what big God with a capital G might be. I don't really like that term. I'll say one infinite creator. It gets confused. God gets confused with little gods, which are all over our history too. Yeah, our one infinite creator is just so wise, and I really feel we're all God sparks, and these lower consciousness beings, or almost no consciousness beings. Rocks got more consciousness. Sorry, I don't mean to put down a rock. I think that there's room for their evolution too. So through this great awakening and through this period of revelations that we are in, revelations, that is correct. Everything is being revealed, or many things are being revealed. I don't know if everything could ever be revealed. Some of these beings may be looking for a little bit of redemption. Maybe they have gotten into a state of evolution, or moving towards a lighter state, a less dense state. And maybe we can work with them. And certainly their minions, which I've spoken of many times, that claim to be related to these off-world beings that came here and mated with Earth women. Maybe their minions are getting ready for a move up the ladder, if you will, in a state of consciousness. And maybe we can work with some of these beings and help them to become better people. The ones that have really harmed us, I believe that they all need to have a trial. They all need to go in front of a court of law that is run by ethical judges and staff, and they need an appropriate penalty. They just do. And for the ones that are able to want to make some sort of change, they need a lot of education. A lot. Because you don't hurt other people, and you sure as hell do not hurt children. Get it? For any of those minions that happen to be listening, what you have done to children is unforgivable. So we, as humanity, are going to have to figure out a way to work this out. We're going to have to find a way to work this out. Hopefully once all the mind control is lifted from this planet, we'll have an easier time of things. You don't hurt children. They don't have a voice. You do not harm children ever. So I think what we're going to have to do is figure out a way to teach some beings empathy. I guess we have to start with sympathy, right? We're going to have to teach other people sympathy and empathy. And it's going to require kind of stepping out and saying, hey, you know what? Treating somebody that way isn't okay. I mean, just think about sports. I have a real bad taste in my mouth with competitive sports, like really bad, okay? And I know that will upset the apple cart as well, but I'm going to say it. That us against them mentality, and I'm the winner, you're the loser, and people get drunk and they start fights. It's like, are you kidding me? I mean, you can't find anything better to do with your time. I mean, why not go out and have a nice friendly game of tennis with somebody, or go out and ride your bikes together? You know what I'm saying? You don't have to sit there and watch other people beat each other up and somehow or another feel like you're the better person because your team won. I mean, what's that about? That's like something a 3-year-old would do. And I think I just insulted a 3-year-old. I mean, come on. This competition thing's got to go. And I know a lot of people think like life would be boring without competition, but hey, maybe we should all give collaboration a try and see how that feels when we actually do things and accomplish things together as a team. One team. Just a thought. We have other options available to us. So maybe somehow as humanity, we could come up with some sort of lesson plan to help teach other beings on this planet to have more sympathy, and maybe with that they will be able to have more empathy. You know, actually maybe it's empathy that they might be able to have a grasp of more easily, because if something happens to them, like somebody they love dies and they feel sorry for themselves because they no longer have that person in their life, they might have a little more empathy towards somebody else who has lost somebody they loved, especially somebody that they lost because somebody from this controlling faction of our world is withholding technologies and cures for profit, or actually putting out things that destroy other people and their health and our planet for profit. See, this is where things have to change. We can no longer harm one another on this planet and or allow harm on this planet. Do no harm. It's one of the oldest sayings in the world. Let's do no harm to one another. So, awakening, it's not the easiest thing in the world. And I will just put out a fair warning of this possibility that if we do not heed this collective wake-up call at this time, where there's this disease, virus that is killing people all over our planet, not like there's not a ton of them anyway. Sorry, I almost swore. I generally swear a lot. I kind of need to knock that off a bit, I think. If we don't heed the warning of this collective wake-up call, I have a sense, based on my own experience, that we will get another wake-up call. So, I kind of like this way of thinking about life. When we clean up the house and take out the garbage, then we can play. Get it? So, while we are in this trauma and crisis, or apparent trauma and crisis, why don't we look within, stop the fighting, stop the division. There's all kinds of things you can do to stop the fighting and division. Stop playing the video games that are killing things. Do you think that that's a good program? Do you think that that's healthy? You know what that does? That just makes us feel numb to killing something. I guarantee you, that could be another video. There is a huge conspiracy behind that, my friends. The violent video games, the violent TV shows, the violent movies. Killing's okay. Just hit the reset button. Everybody's fine. That's not the way it works. No, it's not. That is not the way it works. So let us no longer be desensitized to death, okay? I don't think that's a good idea. Even if we have the opportunity to reincarnate, we sure as hell don't have the right to ever take somebody else's life away. We just don't. We really don't. Okay? I'm not a death penalty kind of girl. Never been. Never been. Maybe sometimes it needs to happen. Maybe sometimes it needs to happen. But life is sacred. Let's treat each other sacredly. During this time of the Great Awakening, let's all commit to be kind to one another, to take time out to listen to one another, to be there for one another, to take care of our own side of the street and clean up our own issues, to deal with our shadow sides, those ugly parts we hate about ourselves. When I think about somebody who really hurt me, and I'm like, what a jerk, right? It's like, well, yeah, they might be a jerk, but you know what? Maybe a better use of energy would just be sending them well wishes. You know what I mean? Because we influence people. We're all connected. Everybody's connected. We're just one big cellular system, one big, little cells in a giant organism. And we all affect each other with our thoughts. That's a relatively new revelation to me as well. So what's going to hurt you to think, you know what, I hope they're having a wonderful life. I hope that all of their needs are met and their dreams are coming true. See them healthy, see them fabulous. We can even do that for people that have abused us in the past that are even no longer here. I like to do that, or even like look back at my experiences with them and paint them in a somewhat better light, just to take the sting off of it for everybody. The Great Awakening. Yeah. It seems like there are some unfortunate circumstances. And yeah, some people have died. That sucks. Did they really die from the virus? I don't know. Do I really trust any of those people in charge of the medical stuff out there? Not really. Not really. But, I'll give them some credit. Maybe this virus has killed some people. I know certainly flu and things like that can kill people, especially when they're older. So many things I have to keep inside right now because I could just keep going out on tangents here, and I can see that the time on this is already a little longer than I would like. So, due to unfortunate circumstances, I'm awake. But as I awaken and I work on the icky parts of myself and work on becoming a more loving human being, I can reflect back on those crappy circumstances and go, you know what? Maybe they needed to happen so that I could grow up. Yeah, it hurt. Maybe I've still got some resentments, but I'll work on those too. Because you know what? I don't want another bucket full of ice water in my face. Oh, I really don't. I think that's all I have to share right now. Can we teach empathy? Can we teach the psychopaths, the sociopaths, and the narcissists to become better? I'm going to say yes. And if for nothing else, it certainly is worth a try, isn't it? It's certainly worth a try. And if not, well, then they have their own karma to deal with, right? Because if they don't get help, they're just going to continue to descend in consciousness. And from what I've read about that, from people that are far more spiritually advanced than I am, that have had an opportunity to look at what those worlds might look like, they are not very pretty. They're not very pretty. Who wants to be in an ugly world? Not me. I don't. I want to be in a world full of love, surrounded by loving beings. I don't think it would be boring at all. I think a lot of people think it would be boring. They love the drama. I don't think it would be boring at all. We haven't even really given ourselves an opportunity to explore what it might be like to create in a world full of love. I'm thinking it would be fantastic. How does it feel when you're in love? Pretty fantastic. Imagine that happening all over the world and all of us in that same state of consciousness. Well, I can hear the garbage trucks in the distance. I suggest today we work on taking out our garbage, throwing it in the garbage can, taking out our crappy thoughts and our crappy beliefs that no longer serve the agenda of love, and being done with them. And then we can play. Mwah! I love you guys very, very much. Peace.